on this week, I had the privilege of being invited to go to Radio-Canada to speak about the festival, and this whole theme of inspiration was just fresh in my mind, and no sooner did I leave Radio-Canada that I got a message from Maya, who handles marketing for VIMF. Last year, VIMF was kind enough to invite me to do a presentation, and what really touched me was that my stories touch somebody else. Look around you in the audience here this evening, and how many people in this audience have stories that might inspire other people? And in the coming 9 days, 40 shows, 8 venues, I invite you all to soak up all the inspiration that you possibly can. And not everybody's going to want to come share it on stage, and I get that, but share it with your friends, share it with your family, post it on social media, and let's use this festival as a vehicle to share inspiration, to appreciate mountains, appreciate nature, the environment, outdoors, culture, connecting with other people, and letting this circle of inspiration continue. In the course of doing business over a variety of years and working with a lot of clients, I've actually identified and developed a methodology around 6 ingredients for profitability and growth. Very often, the very mindset that enables a company to launch is the thing that becomes the first roadblock. Great leaders are not the best of everything. They get people who are best at different things and get them all on the same team. It's really important that they are helping to build this themselves. They need to build it, they need to own it, they need to become engaged with it in order to all be moving in the same direction. The best systems in the world are not effective if you don't follow up. So ensure that there's controls and measures built into your systems, monitor with regular reviews. You need to be flexible and be able to adapt and amend as needed. Organizational change for strategy implementation. My name is Eileen Bistrisky. We went around the room already, so you know about my consulting practice. Mark said it, losing control is a fear, and both Victor and Anna said, we're the unknown. Sometimes the leaders actually haven't bought into the change themselves. So it's very difficult to get a group of people to embrace the unknown and relinquish a bit of control when the leaders aren't even sure that the change is going to work. But we didn't address below that, well, how does that impact our culture, and how does that impact our behavior, and how does that impact our mindset, and how are we all engaged in this process? If you don't sort of address all the levels and you just start in the middle, that can be very difficult. What's going on inside everybody's heads? How are we feeling? Because what we had identified was the reason why people resist change is their fear, they don't feel comfortable, that lack of control. It's everything about us as human beings of how we're feeling, and when we're not feeling super great, we don't have a positive mindset, so then our behavior's not so great and it works its way up. Creating a vision is really important. Anthony talked about vision yesterday in terms of strategic planning. You need to know what your core values are, you need to know what the vision of the company is, and you need to know what the mission is. I would say engage as much of the team as possible in creating this vision. So thank you, everybody.
I think it was great.
Thank you. And every single word is going to be exactly the way each one of us is going to say it. So that's not the point. The point is that good enough? Can I live with it? If I can live with it, then let's take our something and move forward. Important today to get us all in alignment on what our core values are, where our mindset is. If we leave this room with nothing more than focus in our direction, that in itself is gold, because all the other things will trickle up. They felt it was too much of a violation of what their core values were, of what their customers came to expect of them. The whole reason why they have the success with the customers that they have is because of that sustainability. So because of that value, they felt they were better off doing the right thing for their customers, building that market share, because usually when an organization's values are in total alignment with the organization's people's personal values, it really sets you up for
to be outside, to explore, to be in the wilderness. I think to put life into perspective. We get so tied up in city life and, our clients and our business and everything. I lead kind of 2 lives. And when you go out in the mountains, it's about making sure there's shelter and water and safety, and everything kind of falls into place. First, I would say I don't like to use the word conquer, because the mountain allows us to climb it. If we're lucky, the mountain allows us to climb it. And then you're thankful and you're filled with gratitude gratitude that you're able to experience this. It's physical, it's emotional, it's mental. You're one with nature, and it's a beautiful experience.
Just before this photo was taken, I had sat down on a rock somewhere and kind of leaned over, and in Russia, for some reason, there are a lot of people who smoke on the mountains. I don't understand how that's possible, but there are all these cigarette butts, and I remember getting a whiff of a cigarette butt, and all of a sudden, all the power gels I had just eaten were like spewing themselves on the snow in front of me, and I was not having a good day. Not having a good day at all. And in fact, it was this moment that later inspired a series of motivational posters that I developed. But somehow, I didn't give up. I actually did carry on. I don't know how. And shortly thereafter, I did make it up to the summit of Mount Elbrus. Now, usually what I do is I'll book my flight, I'll book my first night, and then I kind of figure things out as we go. So I'm down there, and my plan was to do some preliminary acclimatization in an area called Cordon del Plata.
Trying to figure out the logistics with respect to transportation of our gear, transportation of us. This is now my third night sleeping out by myself. If I didn't have this video camera so I could be talking to myself, I'd probably be going completely stir crazy. I am once again boiling water. I'm hoping it's just around the corner there, so I'm gonna carry on and see what I find. Big challenge of this trip, I think, has very much been that, unlike normally back home when all my wonderful friends and I go and do our little mountain adventures, and I miss them terribly. Sorry, here. I definitely feel very much alone.
Lessons learned. Obviously, the take time to acclimatize started to pay off because I did have an easier time of it. And then when I had a rough day, which I did have, the fact that recovery happens at altitude, that was kind of cool and reassuring that I could recover up at altitude. The other thing, of course, that really had a big impact was the team dynamics. Makes a big difference, who you're with and that whole feeling of support. Those are some new lessons to add to the roster. The next morning they're gone and I'm sitting at my campsite, our campsite, looking up at the snow going, oh my goodness, this is Aconcagua all over again. Here I am alone, not knowing when I'm going, where I'm going, how I'm going, no one to go with. But all my friends that I just partied with in igloos for 2 weeks at 14 camp, they were all up the mountain. And within a few minutes after that photo was taken, there I am on Denali Summit. Woohoo! Woohoo! Obviously, all of these things apply. Take time to acclimatize. I did recover every time I felt bad at altitude. Team dynamics were a big deal. And for sure, it pays to stick it out. The fact that I stayed there and made it to the summit was a bit of a new perspective on what could possibly happen in the mountains.
Well, I wasn't going to actually climb Everest just yet. I was going to do a trekking to Everest Base Camp.
A fellow by the name of Sam actually took this picture. I met Sam on the summit, and he's like, hey, what are you up to? And I'm like, I have no idea. I kind of suck. I couldn't keep up with my friends. I'm not acclimatizing fast enough, obviously, and I don't know what I'm doing. And he's like, well, I'm going to be climbing Island Peak in a couple days. Why don't you join me? I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I can't even keep up on a trekking trip. How the heck am I going to climb it? Island Peak is kind of similar to Denali in elevation, and how am I going to do that? And here we are on the summit of Island Peak. And what was kind of exciting was I thought I was such a loser because I couldn't even keep up on the trekking trip, and my friends were off ahead, and I didn't know what I was going to do, and I wound up doing something that was even more spectacular than I think I could have imagined on the original plan. So that was pretty cool.
That strength has got to be in check.
Where I think I came to a realization when I was in Antarctica, actually, was being at peace with what's going on. The reason why I turned around on Aconcagua was I was starting to get stressed and worried and not sure and insecure, and with each successive trip, I learned more and more about, that's Antarctica right there, I learned more and more about just being at peace with what's going to happen.
7 continents, a lot of adventures, hopefully a few lessons. Thank you so much for sharing the evening with me this evening. turn it back over to Jackson.